Hey guys, welcome back to another episode with Lisa and Desi. We're really stoked on this episode because it's going to be all about intuition. We're going to dive into what it feels like, how it shows up in your body, how come we're sometimes disconnected from it, and all the things in between. So I really see intuition as a woman's superpower. When
Mhm.
we listen to our intuition, we are able to follow our life's path and our alignment, but here's the thing, our intuition is always not going to tell us what we want to hear. And that's
Mm,
where there's a lot of disconnect, and we'll be talking about this, but it is literally your superpower. And the more that you connect to it, the more you listen to it, the more you understand how it feels in your body. This is your superpower. So we're very excited to dive in today.
yes, absolutely.
So do you want to we're going to really talk about this first part is like, what does intuition mean to us? How does it show up for us? And really relate it to how we've been growing our intuition. And then we'll dive right in. Do you want to start us off, Lisa?
Yeah, sounds good. So, intuition, exactly what Desi said, it is your superpower, no matter if you're, whatever gender you are, especially, but of course, as women, we usually have this sixth sense pretty naturally. And you
Hmm.
could call it a sixth sense, you could call it intuition. It really does have its own meaning. And this is why we're super passionate about this episode and super passionate about intuition in general, because we've definitely experienced quite a few times how, when we do listen to our intuition and what happens on the other side, and when we don't listen to the intuition and what happens on the other side. So we definitely want to bring more knowledge around this and understanding so you can also recognize these times as well. And the reason why intuition is so important to us is because number one, we're not taught intuition in school.
Hmm.
So a lot of times we follow the path that everyone else is on. And it does like what's the word I'm looking for? Like it pulls our ourselves from our own path. So, you could be listening to your own truth, you could be having certain beliefs around something, but because you want to fit in and because you want to be like everyone else, for example, like you allow yourself to stop listening to the intuition.
Hmm.
So, the reason why listening to intuition and why we speak about it so much, and we also have the practice to come back to it all the time, is because your body is communicating with you. So this is the language of the intuition. It is your body literally communicating with you because the language of the body is not logic. It's not, words necessarily. So it is deciphered as sensations of little subtle nudges of different things that it is a learning experience. And it is about strengthening this intuition because when you do start to listen to it more, or when you do start to get these subtle messages, it is about trusting, building that trust with your intuition. It is about listening and following through, even if it's something that's really scary, or even if it's something like another person is telling you otherwise. You do have to trust your intuition a little bit more sometimes because it does put you in situations. And you could also relate this to faith, because your intuition is connected to a higher source. It's connected to whatever that is for you. You can say God, you can say universe, you can say source, but our intuition is our own inner truth, and that's really all it is. It's your soul trying to connect with you, and your body just trying to give you these messages, but sometimes we just aren't taught to listen to it.
So what I think intuition really is, it's like, okay, well, where does intuition actually come from? Like, who's telling me this? Like, what's
Yeah,
going on? I believe there's a
right.
few different ways. We have a higher self. I believe that we have
Yes.
a higher version of ourselves that's hanging out with us all day, and we're able to connect to that higher self at any point of the day. But usually we're just going about life. So that's one way I believe our intuition comes through is like our higher self will already know things that are going to happen and they can feel that into our body. So for me, I'm very much like in my body. When I feel my intuition, it's like a yes or no in my body, but I also have
Yes.
like this knowing, like I just know things, which I feel like is
Yeah.
almost like the harder one for the
Yeah.
intuition if you do get those downloads where you just know because you're just like, well, how do I know? Like, and then we second
Yeah.
guess it and then we're like, no, but then things will happen and you'll be like, oh, yeah, I did know, right? So I think it comes
Hmm.
from our higher self. I also feel it in my body. Our bodies are so very intelligent, and we're going to talk more about that. So I know that my body will remember things and knows things that
Yeah.
I can't explain. Also,
Yeah.
I do believe it comes from God, source, universe, like whatever it is that you believe in. And we have guys hanging around us all the time. And when we're open and receptive, they're dropping little downloads and they're dropping things into our body. And so those are the ways that I'm sure there's more ways than that, but those are the ways that I feel the intuition comes through
Yeah.
for myself. And when I read the Akashic records, so
Mm,
that is your soul's vibrational blueprint, but you're tapping into the Akasha, which is, divine beings and opening up your records. And so for me in that moment, it is a knowing. And so that was a little bit harder for me to be like, am I making this up or is this coming from somewhere else? And oh yeah, this is a great example. Me and Lisa did an
yeah.
Akashic Records reading, and it was so funny because we're very close. We talk all the time. I know very much of what I have an opinion about, right? And I knew what I wanted to tell her, but then I heard other messages that knowing where I'm like, oh no, I wouldn't say that. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is definitely coming from source. This is coming from somewhere else. And it was like so spot on for her. And it was so beautiful to see that difference and to really
Mm.
understand how it felt and how I heard it in my own internal voice and my body. And so that was a really fun way for me to like tap in and to really understand how the Akashic speaks to me.
So good. Yes, exactly. And like, I think when we do have these experiences, like now that you are practicing that, it has strengthened your intuition and it has
Mm,
strengthened where it comes from for you and how you listen to those messages, which for me, I feel like I've always been very curious and very, like always tapping into the psychic world, you could say, and like using divination tools of some sort, whether it's oracle cards, that really allows me to tap into my own intuition. Because again, it's like when Desi said, like there's messages that you already
mm-hmm,
know the answer, but we second guess
mm-hmm,
and we doubt ourselves. So this is about trusting and building this trust within yourself and your own language and your own intuition. And for me, it's about listening to these different messages and using the oracle cards to strengthen my own intuition. And then of course it leads into other things as well. It leads into how you receive these messages. Like we said, your body is your own language, and how even Desi responds and listens to the Akashic records. It's your own language. It's a way
mm-hmm,
that your intuition, your higher self, whatever that is communicating with you. So, just like Desi said, like she gets the knowing, she gets the listening, she gets the messages. And same with me, like I start to hear different words or start to hear things and I'm like, that's not my own thought. So that's how we're able to recognize, like, yeah, maybe it seems like it comes through, like, but when you start to think of it later, like that did kind of come a little like in a softer voice or in like a subtle knowing of like it isn't out of fear, it isn't out of
mm-hmm,
ego. So you do tend to have to practice that discernment of,
mm-hmm.
is this from my intuition, is it softer, is it more of a knowing, and is it more something that like pretty solid, I would say. It's a solid message. It's a, like, I don't have to waver on this. I don't have to doubt this message
Mm.
because the ego will definitely try to come in and tell you otherwise.
Yeah, and with intuition, I want to say, I don't know if we have that in our notes. It's like the first thing that comes through. Okay. So the
Yes.
second you're self-doubting it, the second you're second guessing it, the moment that you're like rethinking it, you already messed with your intuition. You're already out of that
Hmm.
alignment. You're already onto
Hmm.
the thinking brain instead of the actual emotions and intuition. And everybody has intuition, right? So like my
Yeah.
husband is actually super intuitive. Some of the things he does, and I know Steve as well, your partner, you're like,
Yeah,
see, he
for
listens to his
sure.
intuition, right?
Yeah.
So there's definitely so many ways to connect with your intuition. So as you're listening to this episode, as things are resonating with you, I would be asking myself, like, how does it show up for me? And
Hmm.
to grow that muscle of intuition is really the times that you hear it and then you don't follow it and then you're like,
Yeah.
yep, okay, yeah, oh, that was my intuition, right? So that's one way to like build that muscle. But I want to share a story. Recently I was in California and I was going down to the beach and I was so excited. I was like, it's a beach and I used to live in California and I haven't been there forever. And I don't know, for some reason, I looked up the weather the day before and said it was sunny. So I was like, heck yeah. And so I didn't really pack a whole lot of warm clothes. I did a little bit just in case, but I forgot to check the weather that morning. And as soon as I drove away to leave to the beach, my intuition was like, go get your sweater. I was like literally around the corner. And I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to get
Yeah.
it. And I thought about it again. Intuition said, go get your jacket. And I said, no.
Hmm.
And I regretted not having my jacket because it was a very cold
Yeah.
day.
Right.
And thank God I had like a blanket in the car. So it's so subtle in the moments of like going back, like you're leaving the house, it's like, go back and get your water. You're like, I don't really need my water. And you're going to be
Yeah.
driving down the freeway being, I should have got my water, right? So it's in those like
Hmm.
little things that you're doing throughout the day where you're hearing that little voice or feeling that little nudge that your intuition can show up in.
Yes. So true. And that's exactly what we want to just remind you is that intuition isn't something that's outside of you. It
Mm,
is internal. It is your guidance system, and it is your body, and it is your awareness. And this
hmm
is something that this is just a practice. Guess what? We're not perfect at it. You probably won't be perfect at it either. And I think it's funny, something I always talk about whenever I'm doing oracle cards or whenever I'm doing like my own practices to like get this message because I'm like questioning something and I'm like, just, universe, God, whatever, like just show me a sign because a
mm,
lot of times we just want signs. And this is similar to the intuition and similar to listening to what the intuition and your guides are basically showing you, but we tend to ignore it because we want it into this big grand message. We want it to be like a billboard so we don't miss it, but usually it doesn't happen that way. Usually it is
mm,
super subtle of these messages. And the reason why we're not able to see them or hear them or feel them is because we're so disconnected to our body. We
hmm
are not present with our body. We are not,
hmm
building that relationship with our body because we've been taught to look outside of it.
hmm
And this is the reminder to trust what your body is telling you and to actually to listen a little bit deeper and allow yourself just to listen a little bit more. It doesn't have to be like, oh, now I'm just listening to my intuition and like, only going by that because it doesn't happen that way either. You do have to learn the discernment of, the subtle things, the subtle questions that will allow you to start opening up this relationship and listening to how you receive. So we are going to get into, what it feels like a little bit more into the body. So how do you recognize intuition? Through this physical awareness, through your body. What is your body actually telling you? And I can say that something that I've done quite a few times, which when you do listen to this episode, I will have a recorded exercise that I do come back to over and over again, and that we've done in our containers that it helps to practice what is a yes and no in your body.
hmm
And sometimes, it can be really easy to hear this yes and no, or it may take some practice. So I do want to recognize that, or I want to honor you for trying the practice whenever you're ready, but also know it's a practice and to keep coming back to it because sometimes we're just so in our head
hmm
because of whatever life is like going on and happening with that practice for me still. Like I need to get a little more sun. I need to like ask my body like what is a yes for me today? Maybe it's a little bit stronger today, maybe it's a little more quieter. It could come through as a whisper like, where it's so easy to miss if we're not paying attention. And and basically what this exercise is asking yourself these super simple, but like guaranteed yes and no questions that your
Yeah.
body is like, this is a yes. Like it basically as simple as my name. Like my name is Lisa, and just repeating it to myself over and over to feel where this yes comes up in the body. It could be sensations, it could be warmth, it could be your breath just being expansive, and exactly what intuition feels like for mostly everybody, of course. Again, you still have to practice what it feels like specifically for you. It is an expansion or a contraction in the body.
Mm,
And you may feel this expansion and contraction in your heart space. You
mm,
may feel it in your gut. When you hear people saying trust your gut, our that is so intelligent. And you may feel it in the belly. You may feel it in the heart space. You may feel it even in your hands. You may feel tingles or something like that. And that's why understanding and coming back to this practice over and over again in little doses really helps you to expand and understand, and it really helps you to get into that truth a little bit more. So the other thing is, of course, like we said, it's subtle. It's like a whisper, and otherwise you can stay into the head and you can stay into those fear thoughts, the scarcity, the ego telling you shoulda, coulda, woulda, like listening to all of those thoughts when it is like urgent and it's pretty loud a lot of times. So it's about getting out of that, coming into the body, dropping into the body. Maybe it's a meditation, maybe it's oracle cards, maybe it's this yes and no exercise, and just recognizing and understanding these different signs and these different ways to tap in a little bit deeper. And another thing I could also share is that like sometimes I just need to drop into my heart space. So
Mm.
maybe it's through gratitude. Maybe you just like, give yourself this gift of gratitude of being like, wow, instead of staying in this mindset and in this cycle of thoughts that are telling me, I need to do these things and you're feeling just anxious and stressed and overwhelmed, allow yourself to drop into your heart space and get into gratitude. Allow your
Mm.
heart space to open just a little bit more so you're able to start to connect in a little bit deeper and connect with that little voice, and I'm not little, but like it's a quieter voice that you just
Mhm.
have to be like, let me just give myself some space to listen again. And another question I can really tell you to use once you're starting to get into this practice, something that I listen to or I ask myself consistently whenever, especially I'm feeling like very anxious throughout the day, whatever it is, I'm like, what does my body need right now? Like truly asking yourself, like, what do you need right now? Like,
Mhm.
what does your body need? And this you can use it in so many different ways. You can talk to the inner child, you can talk to different parts of yourself, but what do you need right now? And allowing your intuition to speak. And this is going to be a practice. It's sometimes you hear it right away and sometimes you don't, and that's okay. And then just allowing yourself to be open to different ways of these answers that come through. Like I said, it could be expand, could be your breath getting a lot deeper and like feeling calm and feeling grounded. Or you're going to know the difference of that contraction when your body is literally telling you don't do this. It's a contraction. It's a no. It's a clear no for you. And of course, the way we receive these intuition messages is through different senses. So I always tend to come back to these senses. So if you never heard of the clairs, a lot of like psychics and mediums use these clairs, but it basically means it's using your senses just in a different way. So it's similar senses, just as you're feeling, you're knowing, you're seeing, and you're hearing. It's just a sixth sense part of it. So it is not always, the physical part of these things. So you're not clearly seeing right in front of you. It's more in your mind's eye. It's more in the body of you're hearing and you're maybe receiving them at like so there's clairsentience. I'll just go over them really quickly to explain them a little bit more. Clairsentience, which is clear feeling. So of
Mhm.
course, as women, we do tend to be have this one as a strong sense where you're just like, it's similar to knowing, but it's a feeling. So maybe you feel the energy in the room shift and you're like, something feels off, and then that way you're able to notice that this is a clear feeling that you're receiving. This is your body and your intuition giving you this message in this way. You could be having claircognizance, which is clear knowing. And this could be that gut feeling. It could be that like drop in of knowledge of being like, nope, that doesn't feel correct. Or just deciphering what information you're receiving. And it's a clear knowing of like, this is a
Mhm.
yes or no for me. And then clairvoyant would be your clear seeing. So this is in your mind's eye. Maybe you're receiving some messages or talking with somebody and all of a sudden you're seeing like a different image or you're just feeling like there's a way that you resonate with something and you're getting this clear image in your mind's eye and that is your way of receiving this message. And of course, with that a lot of psychics and stuff have this ability, but you're able to have this ability as well. It just depends on which one is the strongest one for you. And the last one is clairaudience, which is clear hearing. And that's something that I definitely feel like I receive messages the most, and that could come through as like an actual song. It could come through as actual thoughts, but they're not your thoughts. And that's where you receive these words and these other senses that come through and messages coming through this way.
I'm going to chime in on that
Yeah,
clairvoyant, the clear
absolutely.
seeing. So
Mm-hmm.
I always thought like I was going to see this like really clear picture, like a picture from the camera. Like it was going to be bright. I was going to be able to see it. And I was like,
100%.
so I had this like, that was my, what is that? Like, I guess what I thought was going to
Yeah.
happen when I saw
Mm-hmm.
this. And as I've connected more with the Akashic records, I started seeing things, but it was a lot different than what I thought. And it was more of
Yeah.
like off in the distance. And it was like, and it's just like an outline. It's just like, so you're kind of like, well, they're showing me this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, but and I'm not really sure what it means, right? So it comes with like a little bit of deciphering too. So that's been a really
Yeah.
fun
True.
one that's come online for me that I'm like, oh, okay, it's different than I thought, right? So we want to
Yeah.
have no expectations, right? Being
Hmm.
open to anything being possible for us. And I
Yeah.
just thought that was a really cool thing. I'm like, I'm seeing things. Oh my God, this is so cool. Like I've never
Mhm.
saw things and I've been working on my intuition for years. And so that
Right.
was just really cool. And I just wanted to share that part is like we never know how the intuition is going to come through. Be
Yes.
open to it.
Yes. So true. And I think it is about like noticing these subtle things. It could be, when you go into a room, and with other people, or you're just in a crowded and you're feeling the energy, around you, and your body's just deciphering this energy, and your intuition might be giving you these messages that it could be you could be reading someone else's energy, or you could be also in like a protection mode. Your intuition could be telling you like, let's stay clear of this energy.
Mhm.
Something also could be that you could be feeling pulled towards something that it didn't logically make sense. That means
Mm,
your intuition is telling you something. Your intuition is deciphering and sharing with you this energy. And another reason, that something specifically that's been happening with me and tapping into my intuition more, which I'm super grateful for, is that I started doing this like health challenge more recently, getting back into my health because I'm like, you know what? Like I'm just over like just ignoring my body and like
mm,
feeling tired and feeling like exhausted and being stuck in this cycle. And recently, me and my boyfriend did UPW, which is a Tony Robbins event. And at the end, they always talk about health. And it was like, okay, let's do this health challenge. And it was like 10 days cutting out dairy, cutting out a lot of meat actually, and just coming back to the basics and coming back to your health and really, really fueling your body in the best way. And I'm telling you, it changed
mm,
it built back up my intuition basically. And I'm relearning my hunger cues. I'm relearning what my intuition is telling you because I was so much more clear because I was fueling my body with the correct
mm,
stuff. Was it easy? No. But because I kept leaning into this and I kept getting these messages again, I'm like, oh, okay, this is opening me back up to being like, now I'm getting so many more messages. I'm getting so much more clearer messages. And it's just because I'm fueling my body. I'm listening to my body. I'm treating my body like with a lot of honor and respect. And guess what? My intuition is coming more online because of
mm.
that. So
It's
I don't know if
beautiful.
you felt that too before when you like start fueling your body in the correct
For sure.
way, it starts to come on more. You're like,
The
oh,
channel
I know I
comes through
need this
clear. Yeah.
so much clearer. Or it's just like, or even the day after of something, you're like, wow,
Hmm.
I need to get back to my body and like feel my body correctly because we know the difference of it. We know how that feels.
Hmm.
So it is about coming back to the body always.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you're paying attention to how your intuition may be coming through, and you've probably felt your intuition before. I have a
Yeah.
story when I was about 10 years old. I was at my cousin's house, so my aunt was babysitting us, and I remember being upstairs and I had asked my auntie, like, is the baby still sleeping? And she's like, yeah, the baby's still sleeping. She's still like an
Hmm.
infant, my cousin. And I was very young, and I like heard something coming from the room, and I didn't know what it was. And my intuition was just like, you need to go in there, even though like I was probably going to get in trouble if I woke up the baby. And I was like, something so strong was like, go into the room. So I went into the
Hmm.
room and I look in the crib. I don't see the baby anywhere. I started tearing, like taking off the blankets, and she was in the blankets, not breathing. And I just remember like running down the stairs and being like, Auntie, the baby's suffocating. And it was a whole thing. Thank God I went in there when I did. But there is times in our lives where I'm sure you can think of where you're like, oh yeah, you realize you needed to go check on the kids or you needed to do call
Hmm.
somebody because they're going through something, right? So like
Yes.
I didn't know that was my intuition at the time. Now looking
Yep.
back at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, something was telling me like go in the room, and I was like couldn't not listen to it. And thank God that
Yeah.
I did listen to it, right? So, start thinking about those times, like okay, when I did have those things happen, what was coming through? Because for me, I remember it being like really loud, like go check on the baby. And then like my body was just like yes, it was just like a full body yes. And that's when I
Yeah.
start looking back at it. So like start thinking of when you've listened to your intuition or when something like that's happened, like how was that coming through for you? So that'll be really helpful as you continue to build a muscle. Just like anything, you have to lift the weights in order to get stronger, to get to the next
Mm.
set, to get to the next
Hmm.
weight. And so just like intuition, it's going to be something that you practice and you're not going to be like perfect at. You're going to hear
Yeah.
it and then you're going to not listen to it, and then you're going to kick your butt self in the butt, and that's happened to me so many times. I have
That
another
makes
story about
sense.
that that I'll be sharing later. So the next thing we wanted to really get into is why do people feel disconnected from their
Hmm.
intuition? Why you may be feeling disconnected from your intuition. And so intuition is so quiet, like we already mentioned. And so it's easy for it to be overridden by your fears, your ego, the experiences that you had. And so it's really important that you listen to the quiet subtleties, right? And so it's not something that's forced. And we live in a society that is get up and do and motivated and very masculine driven. So, so
Yeah.
many of us are disconnected from our intuition because we have been driven to work hard and to show up and to do all the things. So, it makes it really hard to hear your intuition if you're not actually slowing down and quieting the mind and quieting the noise. So that could make it hard for somebody to really feel into their intuition. And another thing that I think we get like really mixed up in, I mentioned earlier, is like we get really lost in the make trying to make sense of our intuition. Okay. So
Yeah. So
intuition
true.
half the time does not make sense, but it makes sense after you listen to the thing like multiple times and you're like, oh yeah, okay, now that makes sense, right? So in the things that our intuition tell us, like when we hear our intuition and we're like, oh, I don't want to do the thing, right? Like the other day, I was up early in the morning and I was should have been doing my practices. I should have been doing breath work and meditation, except I was thinking about money. And I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I have a bill to pay.
Yep.
And I heard my intuition saying, no, don't do that. And I was like, overrid it because if I didn't do it then chances are I could have forgotten I needed to like pay my credit card bill. I'm going
Hmm.
into the app. I'm still hearing no. I'm still hearing the no. I'm feeling the no. I'm overriding it. I'm getting it
Yeah.
done. I'm doing the thing. It's got to get done. I, was tired. I was trying to make $120 payment and I accidentally made a $1,200 payment.
Oh my
So I
God.
paid $1,200 on my credit card instead of the $120 that I wanted to pay. And that is the way the intuition is like, should have listened to me, right? So I was like, how, whatever that math is, like huge
Oh
mistake,
my
quote
God.
unquote mistake, right? And so
Yeah.
yeah, I called the bank and they're like, "Oh, you got to call the credit card." And the credit card's like, "Well, it hasn't posted. There's nothing we can do." And at
Of
this point,
course.
I'm just like, "Yeah, exactly." So within 24 hours, they had taken my money out of the account. They had paid the credit card, and at that point, it's too late to do anything. So
Mm,
that's one way that we are overriding our intuition, and it's fine. I'm glad I had the money. It paid off the whole credit card. It was fine.
yeah.
But that is how it'll show up for us, and then we will override it, and then we'll realize, okay, so those are the things that build the muscle. So being really, really aware of that, and we've
Yeah.
been conditioned also another reason to look outside of ourselves. How many times do we
Yep.
like call our bestie and being like, hey, so and so said this and XYZ, and like we're taking on all this information and opinions of other people. And so when that is really loud, or we're looking for other people for our truth, then we are not actually listening to our intuition because our intuition is always speaking to us, our body is always speaking to us. And so when we are looking outside of ourselves for answers, then we're giving our power away to those people and not actually being in our own sovereignty. So with logic, right? That's another way that
Hmm.
we talked about before. Like we're very logical. Well, that doesn't make sense. Intuition does not make sense. Okay. So it's not something that is going to make sense. And I really want to drive that home because it's going to tell you to do things and it's not going to make sense. But most of the time, I'm not going to say 100% of the time, it does make sense of why something happened. And if it doesn't make sense in the moment, it'll make sense down the road when we're listening to our intuition. So, with that, the self-doubt that we all walk around with, right? The second guessing ourselves, those are the ways that we're just like overriding our intuition all day long. Other
Yep.
ways that we feel disconnected from our intuition is through, childhood conditioning, being told you're too sensitive, right? You're wrong, you're too emotional. All those things that we grew up hearing are being programmed into our subconscious. And so when we think of something like intuition, it's like, that's woo, that's not will. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's so real. I can't even deny it anymore, right? Like, even just the oracle cards, and you sometimes you get slapped
Hmm.
in the face with them, and you're like, oh
Oh my
yeah,
God.
duh.
Yeah.
You've already been telling me that. Like I already knew that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
so with that, like, were you told that you were too sensitive, too emotional? Were you told that you
Hmm.
were wrong when you had feelings about things, or when you decided to make decisions? Were your decisions overridden as a child, right? Like start thinking back, like, how was I, what is the word I want to say? How was I parented, right? Okay, there it is.
Hmm.
How was I parented growing up? Because that's all going to make a difference on like how you show up today and like how much you allow yourself to feel into it and be open to it. And so the other thing that comes along with that is like, what kind of trauma did you have growing up? What kind of wounds are you operating from right now? So once you do more of this healing work, this is when your intuition will get stronger because you're starting to move out a lot of the muck. So I'll bring it back to Lisa. She said when she started eating healthy and clearing out her body, then, her intuition was coming through stronger. That's the same thing with your trauma, your wounds, the pain that we felt, the hurt from
Yeah.
our loved ones, the betrayal, all of that. When we start to heal that, your intuition will also get louder. So if you're feeling like,
Hmm.
I'm not really sure, and things of that sort, there's a chance that it could have some trauma behind it that maybe you're not even aware of. So
Yeah.
with that comes a lot of overthinking, right?
Yeah.
We are humans that tend to love to overthink. We overthink everything from what we're eating to, what we're going to wear to, what that person said. And we have a tendency to replay those stories. So if we're consuming ourselves with overthinking, replaying the stories and thinking about, X, Y, and Z, then again, we're not actually listening to our intuition. And so that's another way that we can really stifle that intuition from coming through. Also wanting proof, right? Like I want to know right now that this thing is going to work, and if it doesn't work or if it doesn't happen, like I followed my intuition and the intuition didn't bring me the money, it didn't bring me the partner. Those are the ways that we also like override our intuition, which then keep us further away from the actual truth. So where in your life may you be overriding your intuition in these ways? So I shared about my $1,200 mistake. I have a few other stories, but do you have anything around that? Like, what are your feelings with that, Lisa?
I would say too, just to relate this in a different way, as you are speaking and talking about this, it's like because we are females, obviously, and feminine energy gets a bad rep. And I think we can
Mm,
relate to intuition as feminine energy because
hmm
we are in this masculine world a lot of times and we're taught to like look outside or like force things just like you said, like you were trying to like do the practical logical thing of paying your credit card and your intuition's like no, like you don't need to do that right now, and like you're
hmm
like but I have to, but
hmm
it's like this masculine push and force. So you can think of the flow of your intuition coming through, and it might be softer, it might be quieter, and it might be something that is not what you're used to because you're
hmm
used to seeing the plan and seeing the structure and seeing and like taking out the steps or like planning everything before you to like feel good about it, instead of just trying one thing at a time and like, just listening to that first step, especially with manifestation, I would say. Like, I know so many times I have come across where like, I'm manifesting something and I'm like, I need the whole plan in order to start. And guess what happens? You never really start. Or, you put it off so much because it's not what you're taught. You're not taught to like just try one thing at a time or take that first step and listen to that first step. Your intuition is literally telling you what to do with the first step because it does feel usually pretty good. And it feels like it's almost too easy sometimes, or it also feels like, I don't, it's the illogical part, right? Of like, no, that doesn't make sense. Why would I do that first? Because, logically, it doesn't make sense to start with that step. So it is going to come through in different ways, but I can say you want to be in flow over this force. And that will allow you to start trusting this flow, starting trusting this intuition that's coming through. And for me, examples wise, like again, it's just like I feel like I talk myself out of things a lot.
Mm.
And like I start or stop, and then I talk myself out of it, And then I'll do my oracle cards later to like help me out. I'll be like, well, why like what's the next choice? What's my next step? And then I see it and it's like, oh, right. Like I heard this earlier. I heard this answer. Like, and it's just funny how it comes through because I'm just ignoring it. I'm literally like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, or whatever. So I'm just
Mm.
ignoring it. But when you pull those oracle cards, they definitely tell you the harsher reality of what you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. And it comes through as, like, or the anxiety comes through louder. right? That fear comes through louder. And that is where I tend to listen to that fear because we're taught differently. And I could say even with childhood conditioning and stuff and being as a child, it's like, what examples did you also grow up around, right? Like when you
Mm.
were talking about that, I'm like, oh, you know what? What was actually showed before you? Like, right? So like if your parents were constantly do and hustle and
Mhm.
force, you're going to be naturally wanting to do the same thing because that was your example. And that's obviously society too. It doesn't have to be just your parents and your childhood, but like who around you listened to their intuition? Who was maybe more in that feminine, quote unquote, maybe hippie flow, even you could think of it like, and you're just like, okay, they're a little weird because they're just like listening and doing other things like where it's not natural, maybe to you. So it's just recognizing where those softer messages are coming through and how you can strengthen it and how you can start practicing and listening and leaning in a little bit more too. I think for me, things that have happened in lately, like an example, as we've shared on this podcast, is that I went through, I'm going through a grief cycle right now, and a lot of times lately where I'm like, at the end of the day, after my work day, whatever, it's like, exactly what Desi's saying is like, we're taught to like do all of the things. We're taught to, pay your bills and taught to do all these, do the rest of the routine. But sometimes like your body doesn't need that. So sometimes your body needs space. And for me, I was deciding like my body was like, you need to get outside, you need to get into nature, and it might not be logical sense to do that right now, but that's what you need. And I did. And I went in nature, I started listening to something, and I was like, yeah, no, I don't need this right now. Like your body's like, stop listening to things, just listen to the birds, I walked a little bit further. And I'm like, wow, this is exactly what I needed. It was just like a drop in download. I'm like, I just need to be, I just need to be in nature. I just need to be here right now. And as soon as I came back, of course, my boyfriend is very intuitive as well. And he was like staring out back. And like, I was like, the sun is coming in perfectly in our backyard. I am so excited to sit out back. And he literally had the same exact intuitive message. Like, it
Mm.
was like we just sat out back, like, didn't talk for a little bit, just stared out and just like enjoyed the company of each other, of course. And then we also just enjoyed like being there, like not needing to hustle, not needing to force, just literally slow down and was able to just be. And then, of course, we had great conversations after that because we were regulated. We slowed down, we listened instead of forcing. And that's the gift of when you listen to the intuition. And and we were like, wow, we needed that so bad.
Mm.
Like we didn't realize until it happened. And we listened to the messages. Again, we didn't have to. Like, we could have overrode it, but we didn't. And that's the beauty in listening to this. And I'm sure you have another example on this.
Well, just like what you were saying, by the way, Lisa lives in New Jersey. So when there's sunshine, you got to go outside and enjoy it at this time of the year. So I love
For
that you
right
guys,
now, yeah.
yeah, I love that you guys were able to do that. And some of the things that I wanted to piggyback off of is sometimes you can be mad at your intuition. And I feel like there's so much
Mm-hmm.
we could say about this and we can keep talking about it. But,
Yeah.
our intuition is going to show us some truth because you have to remember it's coming from source, it's coming from your higher self, it's coming from the bigger picture. Like, us humans are so
Mm-hmm.
funny because we think we know everything and we're trying to plan it out and we're going to
Yeah.
orchestrate stuff. And, the powers to be that are like so much more intelligent to us are they have other plans. And
Yeah.
so it's okay to be mad at your intuition. I personally, recently, in the last several months, had a really bad feeling. And that feeling came
Mm-hmm.
true. My parents were driving home from Utah to Arizona. And I don't know, on Friday night before they drove home, I just got a bad feeling about their drive home. And I was like, oh, something isn't sitting right. And that was like in my gut. And most of you listening can probably attest to having that feeling at one point in your life when you're just like, oh, that just doesn't feel right. I even told my husband about it, but I didn't want to give it a lot of energy. I didn't want to think about it, right? I didn't want to put that out there because God forbid anything happened to them. And so Monday or on Sunday when they were driving home, I like talked to them when they left. I talked to them like when they were halfway home, like having a conversation with them. I'm at their house watching their puppy Dakota, and I'm packing up, and I just get a call from my mom, and she is screaming and she is yelling. Thank God they're okay. They got into an accident. They rolled the vehicle. It was a whole thing, and after all was said and done, and I was like, I knew it. I freaking knew it. And it was like
Hmm.
this point where I'm like, I had to process it because I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to know things. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to know bad things are gonna happen. Like, I'd rather not
Mm,
know. So I really had to sit with that because I was a little bit, I was mad at my intuition. I was like, okay, like that wasn't fun. Like, I don't need to know if
hmm.
bad things can happen. And you know what I was really feeling that's been coming up for me? Like, I had this incessant worry when I was like 11 or 12, and my mom was like working a lot, and I was always like scared she wasn't going to come home, and I was like looking out the window, and there was a lot happening back then, and we're not getting into that in this episode, but I felt this like incessant worry coming back
Yeah.
online, like where I'm just like, if I really let it take over, I could get back into that energy. And it's something that I've honestly been dealing with for the last several months, where I feel like I'm right on the teeter totter of being like, not trusting the universe, not trusting my intuition. And
Mm,
it's like
yeah.
everything I worked so hard for. And so I, thank God, have the awareness around it, you know. And yeah, so it's okay sometimes to be mad at your intuition. I was like, no,
Yes.
me and you are not in speaking terms right now. But at the end of the day, I know that for my highest good and for where I desire to be and for my highest alignment, like I want to be in touch with my intuition. Like, thank God I listened to my intuition at 10 years old, right? Like, that
Yeah.
is just, you know, there's so much benefits for us to be in tune with our superpower and to listen to it and really be able to be in tune with it. So I just wanted to go like over and would love to hear what your thoughts on this. Like, what is intuition and what it's not, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to go over that again. It's not us second guessing. It's not the loud noise. It's not the I think I should do this, but I should do this, but I know I should do this, right? It's not
Yeah.
the noise. And I really want to drive that home. It's the subtle. It's the in the moments like I'm to the point right now where I'm just listening to my intuition because it is keeps slapping me in the face every time I don't know it. So even when I don't want to do little things like turn around for the water or, you know, go put the laundry in the thing right now, like I'm just like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go do it. Like I'm not
Yep.
resisting it anymore because I've done
Yeah.
that enough. Like my Taurus moon, you know, we like to make things real complicated and hard for ourselves. And I'm like, I'm not doing it anymore. So I've
Yeah.
just been in so much more flow and so much more trust with my intuition. And I just have to say, life is better when I'm doing that. And so what
Hmm.
it is your knowing in your body. It is that like I'm gonna follow it even though like I want to do the other thing, right? So you know, start thinking about what is intuition to me, and I would love your feedback on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think exactly what you're saying too, and the examples that I've been receiving and, going through different cycles of life lately
Hmm.
and really slowing down enough to listen to these subtle nudges of the things that don't make necessarily sense, because I could be I do tend to be in my head a lot throughout
Hmm.
the day, and I have a lot of air and earth energy that keeps me in my head. So I have to always come back to the practice to get into my body. So I use my breath all the time, and then I use my
Hmm.
oracle cards for confirmation for what I'm feeling. Like I know enough now that like I do know this energy, but sometimes I just still want the confirmation and the
Yeah.
validation. So I use the oracle cards for that, and it allows me to be like, right. I did know this, and when I am second guessing myself, when I am second guessing this voice. And I think too, like intuition and signs and manifestation, it all comes to this. And I think when you're asking for something or when you're praying for something, right? And when you hear a conversation or a song or you
Mm.
hear something that validates this feeling for you, like,
Hmm.
this prayer for you or this manifestation, and it's like, for right now, I could say because it's a Sunday as we're recording this, and we went to church this morning, and whenever we do go to church, this pastor that we have, he's very relatable because he's close to our age, and he always does have a message, and it's like, wow, that's exactly what we're going through, and it's like. I needed to hear that. And sometimes we're like, we look outside, for that validation, for that confirmation, which is good to have, right? Like those moments, like, okay, I'm in the right place, the right time, I just need to keep honoring this truth for myself. And I need to keep trusting, like, this is why I'm desiring this. And I do believe that it is so easy to get into the noise. It is so easy to scroll your phone. It is so easy to get into other people's beliefs and stories and their
Mm.
own experiences onto you. But you do have to keep coming back to your own energy. You have to keep coming back to this knowing, this inner knowing, this body based knowing. So that way you're like, no, this is my yes. And because again, like we've shared, and as you were talking, you're going to have your own experiences of when you follow these yeses and when you follow these nos and what happens. And doesn't mean everything's gonna be perfect because it doesn't. But when you start to slowly follow these little nudges,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to share some examples, of course, too, and how to like really strengthen it. But it really does matter to like learn and lean into this intuition, lean into this inner knowing, because that is when life gets really, really good, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I think that's the scary thing too, is that we
Mm-hmm.
do know. We do know. We just aren't taught to listen to it. And so
Yeah.
hopefully that resonates with you.
Yeah, so like Lisa already said, like start small, okay? Like
Mm-hmm.
super easy decisions. Like, should I have coffee or tea today? Should I wear
Mm-hmm.
the black shirt or the white shirt today? Should I go to bed earlier? Like just super, super small things, like feeling intuition, like, okay, just asking, like setting the intention and like asking and seeing how that feels, seeing what comes through, and then following through with the thing and observing it, right? Like, okay, am I glad that I wore the sweatshirt instead of the tank top, right? Oh yeah, it was colder
Yeah.
today. So thanks for
Yeah.
that intuition, right? Like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I actually feel so much better that I drank tea and I hydrated more with the herbal tea rather than the coffee today. And actually I'm feeling more clear today, right? So
Mm-hmm.
start giving yourselves these like little small things that you can do and make it a game. Have fun. Maybe
Oh,
get a
yes.
girlfriend on board with it, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
let's practice our intuition. And I'll do the yes or no exercise that we have in the show notes. You can sign up for free. We're giving that as a freebie that Lisa's recording
Mm-hmm.
for us, and that's going to really
Yeah.
help you too. It's going to be like 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. This is a super,
Mm-hmm.
super
Super
simple
quick.
practice. And so it's really understanding where in your body it is with that exercise. Like, okay, am I feeling it in my shoulders? Or am I feeling it in my stomach? Right? Like you can ask yourself right now, like, is my name Desi? You're going to get a no. Where did you find
Yeah.
that in your body? And then ask yourself your real name, right? And so, am I 55? Okay, no. Am I 38? Yes, right? So, like,
Yeah.
what is that? Like, that you can, like, those little things you can start really asking yourself. And so that's going to build the trust, it's going to build the muscle. So, really setting the intention, like, I'm going to build my intuition muscle. I'm
Mhm.
going to make it a practice. I'm going to be aware and I'm going to listen to that little voice or whatever it is that really comes through for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why exactly what Desi's saying, like not every decision needs that outside validation. So it is about building these little small actions and questions to build on top of building this trust because that's going to be your body's going to feel safer to like speak to you in these ways. You know, when you're not going to ignore these sensations, you're not going to ignore these messages as you keep practicing these little things.
Mm,
And the other thing is just as a reminder is that regulating your system is going to be super helpful. So slowing down a little bit, you know, allowing yourself that space even when it doesn't make sense to. So there's, like I said, getting out in nature if you can. And because it will regulate you, it'll ground you, it'll center you, maybe your breath, sometimes just taking a couple deep breaths, pausing for a few moments. Because when you stay in your head, the fear is going to keep getting louder. The anxiety will
mm,
keep building. You're going to stay overwhelmed because when you're in that state, you're going to be constantly grasping and trying to do all the things instead of the correct thing. And that is when you're able to slow down enough, create safety in the body, feeling the body,
mm,
using the breath, practicing the yes and no exercise. That safety in the body is going to help you create more clarity and help you to listen to your intuition a little bit more every time.
so good. Not every decision needs to be validated by other people around you, by the outside, right? So you are a sovereign being. You are smart. You are capable. You have a clear knowing. You are intuitive. There is no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really starting to learn how to trust yourself, right? And I'm just going to give you a quick practice that if you're feeling like I don't really trust myself or I don't trust my decisions or I wish my trust with myself was stronger, I want you to pick one micro action, something so small like making your bed every day. Okay, I've done this with a few clients and it's a game
Yeah.
changer. Just making your bed every day. Like it's a win right there, right? And you're building that trust with your body. I'm sorry, you're building that trust with yourself. Let's like I can make my bed every day, right? It could be flossing your teeth. It could be, brushing your teeth 3 times a day, 2 times a day, whatever it is for you, just picking a really small micro action to start building that trust muscle. with
Hmm.
yourself. And trust is built through action. It's
Yeah.
built through listening to your intuition. It's built by not listening to your intuition, but then also realizing that you should have listened to your intuition, right? My husband is so funny. I told him that we were recording today, and he's outside in the front doing all this stuff out there. So hopefully you guys can't hear him. But
I can hear it now.
okay, good. I'm like, he's cleaning my paddleboard. I'm like, I appreciate all the work, babe, but I told you I was recording a podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
So like it's really built through trust, right? So like how can you start building those little things for yourself? And I promise you're going to be thanking us and thanking yourself down the road as you continue to build the muscle, because it's so fun to listen to your intuition. It's so fun to be like, hell yeah, I listened and the payout was
Hmm.
amazing, right? So there would be
Yes.
like little rewards that you can give yourself as well.
Yeah, I would say, as a reminder too, it's like it is just starting and doing it, just like Desi said, like it creates more of that open communication with your body as you keep practicing
Mm,
and keep starting these little actions. Like it is about building that trust instead of waiting to feel ready. And it is about listening and responding or starting, right away instead of second guessing. And just starting to do these pattern interrupts for yourself so that way your intuition can come clearer every single time. And now we do have a couple of questions now that we've talked about the intuition and gave some examples and shared, a lot of different things. So now we want you to recognize a couple of things. So where does or what does intuition really feel in your body now? Can you notice it now as we've talked and as we've given some examples? So what does it feel like in your body? Do you notice these subtle experiences and these sensations that your body's literally being like, get this is a yes and this is a no.
mm,
And it's okay, you can't pinpoint anything now, but as you move forward after understanding and leaning into what we're sharing, you will start to pick it up.
mm,
And of course, come to the show notes for more of the questions too. If you do want to go further, if you want to journal on them, if you want to just have more awareness, write them down so that way throughout the week you can see and keep coming back. And maybe you pick a practice that we shared. Maybe you do commit to the yes and no practice. Maybe you commit to asking yourself, do I want water or do I want tea right now? Or do I
mm,
want coffee or tea? And keep asking these little subtle questions and seeing where you're pulled in that direction and what answer feels the best in your body. It's a yes for you. And another question you could ask yourself now is where in your life are you not trusting yourself?
mm,
Where in your life are you not trusting yourself right now?
mm.
Allowing yourself to be like, ooh, okay, usually you probably have something that first came to mind, and that's probably your intuition also telling you, like, hey, this part, this area right
Yep.
now, why aren't you trusting me? I gave you the answers, I gave you the next step, but you keep ignoring me.
Mm,
And the last question is where are you overriding what you already know?
mm.
Just like we said, where are you listening to that fear? Where are you listening to your fear over your intuition?
Yeah.
And we have more questions, but definitely come to the show notes if you want to dive in a little bit more. And we do have some practices that we will share with you as well. We'll put them in the show notes too, just as reminders and some notes from the episode.
I have another example I want to give that really
Yeah.
intuition really helped me. So, when I was desiring to shift my relationship with alcohol, it was a process because I wasn't going to force myself to do it. I
Yeah.
wanted it to come naturally. And
Hmm.
what I did though is when I was going into drinking settings or situations, I would check in with my intuition, I would check in with my body,
So good.
and I would be like, okay, do I need another drink right now or do I need a water? So I would kind of have like a little bit of an outline. Okay, like after like two or three drinks, I'm going to ask myself like what is it that I actually need? And so I that's another way to build your intuition, right? And did I succeed every time? No. Did I start to succeed more as I kept practicing? Yes. And so it was
Yeah.
a great way for me to check in with my intuition and check in with myself and work on my relationship with alcohol because I realized I don't need to drink 6 drinks. Like I can
Yes.
feel fine and tipsy on 3 drinks, and I
Yeah.
feel much better if I'm drinking more water. And so
Hmm.
there's so many different ways that you could use your intuition. I swear I could keep talking on this, but for the sake of
Yeah, same.
time, we're going to leave it here. We would love for you to head over to our Instagram at Real Talk Real Healing Podcast and share with us some of the ways that your intuition has been coming through with you.
Yes.
Share a takeaway from today. Share how you're going to start practicing and what muscle, how you're going to build your muscle. We would love to hear about that. We have, let's see, some closing thoughts. So is intuition isn't just something you need to go find. It's something that's already in you. It's really just coming home back to you. Do you have anything before we get into like some of the closing stuff here?
No,
I
I
think we're good.
think we shared quite a
Okay.
lot of examples. We could keep going,
Yeah, we
and
really
that's
could.
I
We want to go ahead and share. Okay, so this is our third episode, I believe, is how we're dropping this one,
Yeah.
and we on the first 2 episodes said to leave us a review. Since
Yep.
then, we've come into the knowledge that you cannot actually leave a review on Spotify. So if you're listening to Spotify, you can leave us a 5-star review, and then screenshot that and send it to us so we can enter you into the giveaway that we're giving
Yes.
away. And then if you're Apple as well, you can, leave us a testimonial, do the star reviews and screenshot it to us as well so that we can give your entries into the giveaway, which was,
Woohoo.
Lisa remember what we're giving away?
Yes, I'm doing a 30-minute birth chart reading, and you are doing a 30-minute session as well. You're
For the
Akashic, right?
Akashic. Okay, perfect.
Akashic
Yeah, the
reading, yeah.
Akashic. I thought so. Yeah. She has a better memory than me over here. So I appreciate that about you. So thank you.
Absolutely. We got each
Yeah,
other.
so go into the show notes. There's a freebie there for the yes or no exercise. We got some journal
Yep.
prompts in there for you. Please connect with us over on Instagram as we are growing. And please share this with a friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, anybody you think will find this helpful, we appreciate that so much.
Until next time, until our next episode, we are
Toodles!
so excited to talk with you again.
Yay!